Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this panel show are those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of this channel, its affiliates, sponsors, or production team. This content is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised. We encourage respectful dialogue and critical thinking around the topics discussed.
Party. Why I like the new party? Number one, it's a group of people that's on a panel. We all have differences, but we all basically still come together at the end of the day. The new party for me is about unity. The new party for me is about educating people to the truth, letting people know what's been going on in our country. With that being said, shout out to the new party, man. We're going to keep it going with y'all.
Welcome to the new party. I'm Nora Christine.
I'm Kim.
Kim Billions, what's good?
I'm Doc.
It's Mia.
And I'm Enzo.
And tonight on the new party, we might have to re-educate some people about the Second Amendment, honey, because I just think people don't forgot tonight. But we're gonna have an education tonight. So, Kim, you are a former paralegal in another life. Tell us about the Second Amendment. What does it protect us from?
The right to bear arms. Did I pass?
Yes. Yes, you did. But I'm sure our friends on the right tonight will explain to us how he was a terrorist, what he didn't do. I can't wait to hear all of it tonight. I've heard a good lot last night. If you watch, we heard it from Rippy and 85. We heard the mental gymnastics. So we'll have part 2 today. But in that first clip, we had comedian. I know you guys didn't think he was funny, but many people do. And he was just making a joke, but in all seriousness, the right usually defends Second Amendment, but it seems like we're pivoting from that a little bit. And that's okay. But leading up, I'm going to be fair and I'm going to give both sides tonight. Even though I personally think he was an unjustified killing, let me start by saying that. And I am a conservative and I did vote for Donald Trump. So you're not going to take that from me and say I wasn't, but I know how the chat is. We'll be fair. A week ago, we're going to paint a story about Mr. Alex Pretti, whatever his name is, rest his soul in peace. This was a CNN clip saying where he was at a week before. We'll start with that.
That Alex Pretti had a physical encounter with federal agents about a week before he was shot and killed by law enforcement. Sources tell CNN that Pretti broke a rib when a group of federal officers tackled him while he was protesting. Priscilla Alvarez is breaking that story for us. What else are you hearing, Priscilla?
Dana, we're learning more details along with my colleague Jeff Winter about what exactly transpired a week before Alex Pretti was shot in Minneapolis and died this past weekend. Now, in this earlier incident, he stopped his car after observing ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot and began shouting and blowing his whistle. Pretti later told one of these sources that 5 agents tackled him and one leaned on his back, appearing to leave him with a broken rib. According to this source, and I'm quoting here, that source said, quote, that day he thought he was going to die. Now, Pretti was later given medication that is consistent with treating a broken rib, according to records reviewed by CNN. Sources also say that he was known to federal law enforcement, though it's unclear whether it was this incident or another with federal agents that they knew of him. It's also unclear whether the officers who tackled him on Saturday knew who he was. What we do know, however, is that federal immigration officers have been collecting personal information of protesters and agitators within the context of what the Department of Homeland Security has warned is repeated threats towards officers as they are conducting immigration enforcement operations. In fact, just Tuesday, the department also publicized an online tip form to share information about people allegedly harassing ICE officers. We've also heard Tom Homan, the White House border czar, say that a database would be created for those who are arrested for impeding law enforcement. But thus far, in our queries to the Department of Homeland Security, they have said that no such database exists.
Unbelievable. There's a
You're muted.
There you are.
Whoops. Before we get into it, I want to say thank you to Alicia Cook. She became a member today, so thank you to Alicia. Shout out to you. Enzo, I cannot wait to hear your position on this. I will say this was a little interesting for me to hear. So go on and tell me about the chats. While you're talking, I'm going to pull up the clip for the chats that I know you're going to probably mention.
So everybody wants to sit and paint this Alex Pretti as this guy who was just minding his own business, that he was just there recording ICE agents. Here's the thing. This story broke on Saturday night. I'm pretty sure it was Saturday night, about a Signal group chat that he was a part of. Renee Good was a part of. Right here, show it. Most of the people that are in it. There's still more that comes out with that. Of these groups of people that are well organized, that anytime they see ICE, that they're running plate checks, that these people are going out there harassing, obstructing, and doing everything to interfere with these ICE agents. This situation with Alex, as somebody who carries every single day, could have been avoided on his own behalf. You're somebody who's carrying lawfully. This is not an attack on the Second Amendment whatsoever. It's not. That's your God-given right by the Constitution to carry every single day. With that comes responsibilities. For you to be carrying every single day, you must be aware of your surroundings to not put yourself in a position where it could get chaotic or interfere with law enforcement. The biggest one, you're carrying. They're going to address the situation how they address the situation. I'm sorry, he had a weapon on him. The first thing he should have did was, when he was pepper sprayed, was let them know, I have a weapon on me, and kept my arms up the entire time. That's what he should have done. But he didn't do that. They ended up bringing him to the ground, and while he was on the ground, everyone wants to say they seen otherwise. You can clearly see him from putting his hands above his head down to his side where his firearm was on him, where his holster still was. That officer saw that, acted correctly. It is his life versus their life, and that's how the situation needed to be addressed. It's tragic that it happened, but again, just like Renee Good, mind your fucking business and you would still probably be here. They're doing a job. Let them do their job. Don't interfere. Don't try to be the white savior for whoever out there. Let them do their job and mind your business.
You muted.
Yeah, so the screenshot you guys saw me share was, they're saying that he had a login on the Signal chat, and in that login it said it literally was his name, and it was his student issued email address that he had for the password. So it would appear that he is a part of these groups where they go, they blow the whistles, they alert the ICE that they're there. All of that said, Doc, does this change your position? Because I heard you last night, you were pretty strong on it. Does it change your position that this was a justified unalivement?
No, I never thought it was justified. I agree that ICE is doing a job, and I think that they have the right to do it. And I think that Trump ran on these principles. So I believe that, this is what's going to take place. I believe that they're doing a bad job. I think that's my argument. I believe that they're doing a bad job, and I don't think all of these dudes are doing bad jobs. I just think that it falls short on conservatives or Republicans when they can't say that dude is a bad agent. You know what I mean? That might not make the whole agency bad, but when you can't point out and say, hey, that guy's doing a bad job, that's a bad police officer, then you lose the American people. And also, I didn't see a guy. I carry every day. You know what I'm saying? I probably have a different interaction with people. I don't have my ass beat by the police. When I'm getting my ass beat by the police, I don't usually keep my hands in the air. I'll 100% tell you. If you go look at the videos, I'll post one in the chat later if y'all want to see it in the group chat of me getting stopped by the police, having an interaction. When they punch me in my shit, I don't keep my hands above my head, even if I got a gun on my way. Like, just because no one puts their hands above their heads when they're getting beat up by 6 armed men. It just don't happen. Like, that's just, I didn't see a guy reaching for his firearm. I saw a dude who was being attacked by 6 armed individuals who came over there, had already OC sprayed him in the face, disarmed him, and shot him in the back and killed him like a dog. That's just a bad agent. You know what I mean? And that's a bad stain. I still think that the job they're here to do has to be done, but those aren't the best people to do it. And I think you can be able to say both.
Well, I'm gonna let Ken go next, but in this clip, this was Charlemagne, and he gave the Trump administration donkey of the day.
For Tuesday, January 27th, goes the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, FBI Director Kash Patel, U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Asali, I think you pronounce his name, and every single conservative who all of a sudden seems like they don't believe in the Second Amendment. Okay, what is the Second Amendment? Well, it's in that document nobody seems to care about anymore called the U.S. Constitution, and the Second Amendment protects the rights of the people to keep and bear arms. I am 2A all day. I absolutely believe in my right to keep and bear arms, but I also believe in common sense gun reform, okay? I don't feel that anyone in America needs guns the size of Little Duval, okay? And I think that's a rational way to look at this situation. But since the tragic murder of Alex Pretti, conservatives have not been being rational about this situation. In fact, critics yesterday were saying that the right is betraying their base on gun rights. Now, I was watching The Daily Show last night, and they had an amazing collage they put together of all of the conservatives just betraying their base on guns.
Is dead, but he did bring a 9mm semi-automatic weapon with 2 cartridges to what was supposed to be a peaceful protest.
Lord have mercy. That was our Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Listen, in a world where Kyle Rittenhouse was hailed as a hero after bringing a gun to a protest and ended up killing 2 people, now conservatives are asking who brings a gun to a protest. Caroline Leavitt said yesterday that any gun owner knows that carrying a gun raises the assumption of risk and the risk of force being used against you during interactions with law enforcement. Gun owners, did y'all know that? Envy, did you know that? I didn't know that having a legal firearm that, you have all your paperwork for raises the risk of law enforcement using force against you. By the way, Kyle Rittenhouse, okay, tweeted yesterday, and I quote, "Carry everywhere, period. It is your right. Hashtag shall not be infringed." Listen, gun right groups blasted the Trump administration yesterday. The NRA had something to say. Let's go to CBS News for the report, please.
The killing of Alex Pretti has raised concerns among a group of Americans not known for criticizing the Trump administration. Advocates for the Second Amendment. The federal government says part of the reason he was killed is because he had a gun. But Pretti was licensed to carry, and the video shows that the weapon stayed in his waistband. One Trump administration official said online, quote, "If you approach law enforcement with a gun, there is a high likelihood they will be legally justified in shooting you." Here is the NRA's response. Responsible public voices should be awaiting a full investigation, not making generalizations and demonizing law-abiding citizens.
That was the NRA, and I agree with them. Now, we know all freedom hasn't been created equal in this country, but the freedoms we do have, we don't want them infringed upon by the government. And yesterday, I told you the Nazis ultimately lost. What I was simply saying was political movements that normalize anti-democratic behavior eventually.
Okay, I can only take so much, Ken. I can only take so much. But he said a lot that kind of rubbed me wrong. First, we need to stop with the terms and the rhetoric. You talked about this last night. Even on the left, Nazi. And you said this. These men have been hearing this. Also, I mean, he's all over the place. What's your thoughts, Ken?
Well, it's very interesting. First off, I like to push back on what Enzo said, just mind your business. They are minding their business. They live there. And where I differ from most people is the government serves the people, not the other way around. If Minnesota residents don't want them there, get your ass gone. States' rights, right? People have a right to run their state how they want. The federal government can't come in and tell other people what to do when those people clearly, as a state, don't want this. And this kind of reminds me of something. Criminals. The founding fathers were breaking British law and committed treason by rebelling against the crown, acting as smugglers and tax evaders to challenge British authority, right? That's our American nature. Our founding fathers start off as criminals, breaking the law against Britain, right? Those protesters are doing exactly what the founding fathers did. We don't like what you're doing. We have this misconception that we serve the government. If we don't like what is going on with law enforcement, the government, we don't actually have to listen to you, number one, right? Because our founding fathers start off not listening. So that's in our American blood, right? So they are minding their business. The overwhelming population of Minnesota does not want that. So the federal government is going to go against the will of an entire state. So then the government is doing its own work and it's not speaking for the people. Isn't that the role of the government?
Well, am I supposed to respond?
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, I
Oh,
think so.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
cool. So
I threw
no,
you a
you're
pass.
absolutely
I threw you a
completely
pass.
wrong. You're
Okay.
absolutely completely wrong about everything you said because at the end of the day, the federal government can go anywhere within the 50 states of the United States, and the will of the people is the 77 million people because we won the election. We want this to happen. We are the majority. The federal government is going to go and execute what we voted for. So they are doing the will of the people. They are. I could care less what people in Minnesota think of ICE getting illegal immigrants out when this is the funny thing. This has been going on now for how long? And have we had the same amount of outbursts? Have we had in the other states that we put ICE in? No. Did you hear anything about Memphis? No. Chicago? No. Texas? No. Louisiana? No. New York? No. You didn't hear nothing from any of these states. You didn't hear no riots, none of this bullshit, none of this organization that goes all the way to the top in Minnesota with the lieutenant governor of it setting up these group chats for them to go out there and go harass these ICE agents. No. That none of this was going on in any of those other states where we, the people, the majority of this country, voted for it. So, no, I stand with the federal government all day long. And you trying to equate the United States originally, I'm sorry, the founding fathers to what's going on today is completely asinine when that's not even close to what was going on because they were fighting against an oppressive government in the British, not lawful agents conducting immigration authority in this country to make the country better for everybody. So Tim Walz and his group of merry little misfits can commit fraud and, you know, get more voter base. That's exactly what's going on there. So no, don't try to equate the two and say that they're not subverting the will of the people when in reality they are.
Enzo, Alex Pretti got shot in his back over 5 times, right? That looked like tyranny. That looked like tyranny to me.
It's not tyranny, no.
That he looked like he was being terrorized, right? He was outnumbered, outgunned, everything. That looked like African wild dogs on a rabbit.
I was just disagreeing.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. We all need to let people have a turn.
And I'll land here. Enzo, you can't say this is what you voted for when you didn't know how it was going to look. You didn't know.
I knew exactly how it was going to look. I know how predictable.
Know
I know how predictable the left is because here's the funny thing: Minnesota. Let's take a trip back down memory lane and look at BLM 2020 and how they reacted there. Yeah, I know what's going to happen in Minnesota. The Democrats are predictable. It's the same exact thing going on. The Democratic leadership enticing the rhetoric, not doing anything to stop this, not working with the ICE, not working with CBP or ICE like those other states and other cities that I mentioned. Here's the key difference between everything else that's going on in the United States with immigration and Minnesota. All those other states are working with ICE. Those state authorities are working with ICE. Those governors, they might not like the Trump administration, but they're working with ICE.
I'll end here. Some of the differences is because ICE is in Arizona. You want to know one of the huge differences. Everybody got a gun here, right? So ICE's behavior out here in Phoenix, Arizona, is gonna look way different because everybody has a gun.
That is
so they shot someone today. They said.
That has nothing to do with it. If state authorities are working with ICE, it doesn't matter who has a gun or not. Because Texas, everybody has a gun in Texas. You didn't hear any of this going on in Texas.
No, your behavior is a little
everybody's got guns in Louisiana. Memphis, everyone's got guns there. It's the state leadership is the fucking problem, not the people. The state leadership. Once you start working with the federal government, none of this goes on. We see it already.
Let me play the clip explaining what you're saying, then I'll let Mia go. This is talking about the lieutenant governor and her actions.
This is Minnesota's Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, right here. She's been identified as the administrator in the underground signal chats that were used to coordinate all the anti-ICE and obstruction in federal law enforcement operations. She was giving locations, license plate numbers, instructions, things of that nature. And she's not the only one. There's other elected officials as well. Now, she has since scrubbed her Facebook and her social media profiles and deleted all of her contacts. This is our own elected officials and our own administrators that are coordinating an insurgency against our own government on U.S. soil. They are using American citizens as pawns in their dirty little war. These politicians, or insurrectionists, I will call them, are doing this with the full knowledge that the people they are encouraging to interfere with law enforcement are going to either lose their freedoms, they're going to get hurt, or worse, they're going to lose their life. They know this, and they don't care. Risking your life and your freedom for dirty politicians. These people are in so deep in Minnesota, and they are using you as a distraction. And that's it. Are we really to believe that Minnesota people care more about criminal, illegal migrants than they do about hard-working, good American citizens? Of course not. This is about the fraud and covering their asses. And if this is allowed to continue, this is the tip of the iceberg, because California, New York City, Philadelphia, Chicago, they are so deeply entrenched in taxpayer fraud regarding social services and programs. This is not just about the pop-ups and the nonprofit organizations. It's the politicians that push these programs through that are just, they're fully entrenched in the fraud. Guys, we are talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, that these politicians are stealing from our paychecks every single week. And they're just robbing us blind and just throwing us deeper and deeper into debt. People who are participating in this, either because they feel some kind of empathy or maybe they're lacking some purpose in their life, you are collateral damage. That's all you are to these people. All of this to protect dirty politicians and their fucking fraud. That, in my opinion, is what all of this is about.
Mia, is it about protecting fraud? What's your thoughts?
I would say my thoughts are 36 states in the United States allow carrying at protests. So people need to stop acting like you cannot carry at a protest. 36 states out of 50 legally allow you to carry at an assembly, a congregation of people, a protest, whatever you'd like to call it. And Minnesota's law specifically does not require you to inform. It actually only requires you to answer the officer if he asks first. So in Minnesota, you do not have a duty to inform. You have a duty to answer an officer if he asks you first. And we did not hear a single officer ask if he had a gun in their initial confrontation. They yelled gun, but that's not asking if you had a gun. So he was legally within his right to carry in Minnesota. He did not have to disclose according to the laws of Minnesota. It was a completely unjustified murder. If we're going by logic and we're connecting the dots, he had a legal right in the state of Minnesota to carry. That's one of the 36 states. He also had a legal right to not disclose, because in Minnesota, like I said, you only have to disclose if the police ask you. You have no duty to inform before you have interaction with them. That is the law in Minnesota. So we need to stop acting like this man was breaking all of these laws. He wasn't. He was gunned down unjustifiably because the police never asked him if he had a firearm. They never asked proof of anything. They didn't even ask for his ID, which, I mean, none of us were there. He could have had his ID and he could have had his permit on him. We don't know. Obviously, none of us were there. So it's so crazy to me, the amount of misinformation that people keep spewing about this man. I don't care what his motives were. That is the law in Minnesota.
Kim, when was he
supposed
to tell them about this gun on him? Before or after they cracked they cracked him in the head? Before or after they pepper sprayed him? What's your take? You haven't talked on it yet, Kim.
Kim or Ken?
Kim, you.
Oh, okay. The whole point of having I just realized I missed my turn earlier. I thought you were just being funny. But the whole point of having principles is to defend them even when they're being used against your point of view. Because the Democrats will similarly use this same type of overreach against the Republicans. Now, if the Trump administration was serious about mass deportations, they would pass legislation and enforce those through laws, not executive order, because the Democrats, once they come in power, they're going to sign another executive order and reverse all of that. Second, probably most important, the way in which that ICE is being given direction to mass deport all of these people is what's so unpopular. It's not just my opinion, it's the majority of the Americans' opinions. And that's why a lot of politicians are starting to backtrack a little bit with their verbiage and their wording. Regardless of any of the laws of open carry, that guy didn't need to be shot in the back 5 times. It's pretty crazy. And then also legally, there's something that's like really important that I think people are missing, which is the theory of pre-crime. So you can't say that or assign a crime on someone that hasn't actually committed the crime or even just an intent to commit a crime. That's the Minority Report right there. You cannot prove that this man had the intent to shoot officers just because he had a gun on him legally. That is pre-crime, and that is so dystopian. That's the part that scares me the most, and that someone earlier quoted my favorite dystopian novel, 1984. Don't believe your lying eyes, okay? Because both parties do this. They move the goalposts all the time according to their own, whatever the fuck they're trying to push at that moment in time. And we're seeing it right now so grossly with the conservatives, so disgustingly grossly with the conservatives. You got me defending the Second Amendment left and right for some reason, because they've just flipped on a dime. It's pretty incredible, honestly, to see, like, firsthand.
Y'all, I have another right-wing person that you guys love to hate. He thinks the shooting was justified. Let's listen.
Is it Myron?
Ignorant.
Close.
They're out there in Minneapolis breaking into hotels, vandalizing them, going where ICE is sleeping and eating and trying to attack them. The situation in Minneapolis is not that protesters are being murdered and gunned down by the Gestapo. No.
Oh, boy.
This has become the locus. This has become a rallying point of left-wing agitators. These are socialists, communists, progressives, radical leftists who are ideologically motivated to stop mass deportations. They are there to protect criminals. They are there to protect illegal aliens. They are there to protect Somalian fraudsters. And they are there to get in the middle of law enforcement and the people they are trying to arrest. Frequently, they're armed. Frequently, they're breaking the law. Either it's vandalism, it's harassment, it's assault. And so under these circumstances, this is completely justified, 100%. And by the way, I don't care if he's a veteran. I don't care if he's a nurse. I don't care if he's a U.S. citizen. We have fucking laws in this country. Donald Trump won the election. He won the Electoral College. He won the popular mandate on a platform of mass deportations. We have a federal government. The Constitution grants it powers. Trump is the chief executive in the country. He is empowered by the Constitution to deport aliens that have no legal standing to be here. That is his jurisdiction. It is lawful. It is under the jurisdiction of the federal government. These are his powers reserved by the Constitution for the executive branch, and there is a democratic popular mandate to do it. So what right do far-left agitators have to veto this? 70 million Americans voted for this.
Gee, Enzo, you guys have the same
312 electoral college votes voted for this. That's our Constitution. That's our Immigration and Nationality Act, or Naturalization Act. That's the INA. What right do a few hundred left-wing progressives have to go in there and say, no, you don't have a right to deport illegals. No, we're going to abrogate all the laws. No, Somalians can steal money.
Gee, Enzo, y'all had the same talking points. Y'all almost kind of just alike.
I don't know who Epstein boy was on the screen. He didn't say anything like me at all.
He said the same.
Nope.
You said the same.
Yeah, you guys sounded almost exactly the same. He was just more angry.
I would hate to say it, but he did have a good talking point when he said, I think it's lost on liberals when they don't realize that conservatives did win the election. This is what he ran on. And he's doing what the people voted for him to do. I just don't think they're doing it right. I think when they can't come out and say, hey, that's not how you do it. Should they arrest some people? Should they put people in jail if they're interfering? And some of these things, shooting someone dead in the street in the back like that isn't proper punishment to me. So I don't agree with that. But I think that this is what Trump ran on. He is going to do it. So that's something we just have to be cognizant of and live with. But I don't think the way they're doing it, and I don't think they have people properly trained doing it sometimes. And I think that's the problem.
How can we say this is what people voted for when they weren't specific on what that was going to look like? I don't think they voted for people wearing masks. I don't think they weren't specific on what are they going to look. They weren't talking about out here. They went into a bar where people were working and families were eating dinner. They didn't know what exactly was that going to look like. When I'm eating dinner, officers are going to come and pull people out from the back while we're out for entertainment. And now it's the scene.
Can I say
It's the
something
same
to
thing
that?
that's happened since Bush. There's nothing different.
Well, I would
It's
say
just polarized.
I would say the differences right now is the reason why Bovino just got fired and he got dismissed from Minnesota, and they're bringing Homan in is because Homan wanted to concentrate. His theory was you concentrate on the worst of the worst. So that's what they sold during the campaign trail was the worst of the worst. Your rapists, your murderers, your pedophiles, the worst of the worst. And that's what Homan's specialty was when he worked under Obama, was the worst of the worst. And we saw that also at the beginning of the Trump second administration, was the worst of the worst. But for whatever reason, Kristi Noem chose Bovino, and allegedly it's her boyfriend, unsubstantiated. I'm saying allegedly, she chose him to lead Minnesota. And he is the one that is doing this broad stroke. However, that is not Homan's style. And that is why President Trump is bringing Homan in to clean up the mess that Bovino made. And that's why Bovino's been dismissed, because he made a fucking mess. Because you can't do broad sweeps. You need to do targeted and get the worst of the worst, because that's what they sold to the American people. And that's what we're comfortable with. And that's what they ran on. And that's what they should be doing. I don't care about fucking Pablo flipping burgers. I want Juan, who's a rapist. I think Juan should leave first. Pablo can keep flipping the burger.
This is what they voted for, Ken. All of my MAGA friends, a few dead bodies don't matter to them. This is what they fucking voted for. Look at the chat. This is what we voted for. And sorry, if you're now flipping on your vote, you didn't know what it looked like. Hey, 11 million people, what did you think was going to happen? This is
they also vote for the Epstein files. So, I mean, they voted for
I say, when we say this is what they vote for, Ken, this isn't something that's proprietary to Trump. They always hide the P, and you're supposed to keep your eye on it. There was never one there. You were never going to win the shell game. You know what I mean? So that when they tell you that, you got to think that this is a small percentage of what they actually want to do, because none of them get in. Not a Democrat, not a Republican. They all get in here and they do the same thing.
I will, if I could add to that, I said it earlier, but Trump, the only thing that he really appreciates and loves and knows more than anyone who's ever lived is good TV. So he's putting on this circus, this theater. It's good TV. It's riling up his base like, yeah, get them. But he hasn't passed legislation. It's all executive order. It's going to be reversed as soon as a Democrat goes back in office. There have been no laws that enforce these deportations, which I agree, that's what people want. They want undocumented immigrants out of here. And I will say the reason why it's gotten so ugly so quickly is because that's what the people feed off of. But like it's just going to be counterproductive, and that's how you get a lot of these people who, like, on the opposite end, are starting to have this visceral reaction to it because it's inhumane. A lot of the things that they're doing, and then also covering their face, is also should be illegal. It sounds dystopian. It sounds Orwellian. It's not good.
I think that's not, and I'm going to push back on that because I feel like it's not fair to the officers, because we live in a digital day and age where women and children should not have to pay for the sins of their husbands, okay? So these men go out there and they're arresting people and they're doing these things. However, they should be wearing face coverings, because we have Gestapo patrols now of ordinary civilians walking up and down the streets of Minneapolis, stopping people in their cars because they're driving dark SUVs. We all know in this day and age, doxing, showing up at jobs, showing up at work. There was a viral woman who found a man, drove 3 hours to his job and confronted him and forced him to read an apology letter because he left one derogatory comment on her video. I think to protect these men's and these women, there's women too that are on ICE and, Border Patrol, in order to protect their families, they should be masked. I will push back on that. I'm okay with all police officers being masked, because at this point in time, these people shouldn't die.
I'm going to allow the person on the panel that actually has experience with law enforcement, one of the two. Ken, what's your thoughts? Should these people have their face masks? While we at it, let's just have the cops having their face masks. I mean, because the cops can get doxxed too while we at it.
Mia, my pushback on that is, when you get to cover your face, it's kind of like being on the internet and somebody hopping in your chat. They're going to approach you and say something to you that they would never say, right? Sure. Now, I'm going to argue, not all, but a lot of people that are in law enforcement are pussy, just by themselves, just who they are as a person. I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. It's not the most solid of individuals. And of course it does stems from how they grew up. These don't often be the biggest, strongest, fastest in the environment. They be the weakest, and they are empowered by the greatest military force in the world. And you give that person a mask. Now, I will say, on the other side, if I'm showing up to work and you're calling me a Nazi, and I'm showing up to work and you are in my face and you're spitting in my face and everything, right? On the other side, these people aren't Nazis. I don't like that either, right? But you're showing up and you're calling them this. We don't know how much these people get paid. We don't know what kind of training they have. You have a person in the mask. Nobody even know who shot Alex. You can hide. So if I'm on the force and I see that, and I got the full backing of the greatest force in the world, and they just be reassigned, what's stopping the next person? You don't even know who I am. I could do whatever. With a mask on, there ain't no consequence.
Ken, to that point, I did look it up. There are people impersonating ICE agents right now around the country and assaulting women. And we claim the reason why we want the illegals out is because of assaulting women and protecting women, which was my reason for wanting them, certain ones out. So with that being said, we got to keep the same energy. And if it's about protecting women, children, and American citizens, I have a problem with people covering their face. That's just me. I don't know. Then you shouldn't become an ICE agent then. If that's a concern of yours, you shouldn't be an ICE agent.
When does covering your face? When do the judge need to cover his face?
I mean, while we at it,
is the prosecutor going to cover his face? One of the biggest things in American law is that you have the right to face your accusers. So I should be able to point out who it is I have this issue with, and I should be able to say, hey, it was this guy. I have proof. Their name should be documented in the paperwork, all of these things. And I think putting a mask on these people, if you're doing something you're ashamed of, go do something else. If you're doing a job, you have the backing of the American government. You know what I mean? These people don't have the same people backing them and the same power backing them. And will that look weird for some guys' families and stuff like that? Yeah, they booed some of the soldiers when they came back from Vietnam. Those soldiers didn't wear masks. They went.
I mean, right. And to your point, when we have our armed soldiers who are real heroes every day going out now, this is not an attack on ICE. First of all, let me be clear. We don't have them covering their face when they're going to Afghanistan and Iraq. And there's real terrorist organizations that can literally come unalive their families. They are still showing their faces. So this whole bullshit about we worried about them getting doxxed. Sorry, boo-boo. If you don't like it, don't do it. It's that simple.
And I just mean it's a tough job. It's a tough job, and it is a job that has to be done. It's a tough job, but if you don't want to do it, do something else. So you got to know what you sign up for. When you sign up, you know what I mean. You just got to sign up for that. So it's a tough job. I don't envy it. You know what I mean. But if you're gonna sign up to do it, you got to sit there with your chest out and your head held high. You got to do your job. You know what I mean.
What about the good ICE agent, right? The one that's good, the one that has a moral fabric, and they see corruption with their peers, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's stopping the group to pin a crime or something on the minority? You can't see his face, right? It's their word against mine. So the good cop, the good one that is like, I'm not with none of this shit, right? They can pin something on him because you can't see our faces anyway, right? It's too foggy of like it's just, again, you see how a person
we live in a world where people take guns and they go into schools and they shoot kids, right? So, and we live in a world now where we do have liberal Gestapo gangs going up and down streets as we speak in Minneapolis. We've all seen the footage. So I would say that I'm okay with people not being masked. I'm okay with people being masked. Like, personally, I'm not out there doing anything crazy. However, I will say that we live in a world where people have no problem murdering each other with impunity. People with impunity, these people don't care. They believe in a cause and they think their moral compass backs that cause, and they are willing to jihad themselves in the United States as domestic terrorists to do it. They don't care at all whatsoever. That's my thing. If it was 1979, 1965, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Don't need to wear that. But it's 2026. And the climate tells us that there needs to be certain compromises being made. I'm sorry, but you and I both know there are plenty of people out there that will take a picture of someone's face, that will go through it, and they will show up at a school and they will walk in and they will blow the brains of their child out. Point blank, period. It happens all the time.
Without saying what I do, I've had people dox me, show up to my house, threaten to kill me and my children. It happens, and I don't even go and do. I ain't, when I do, I'm not hurting.
That's my point. People are that crazy. That is my point. People, you don't even do anything.
That is true,
crazy.
but the problem is
you don't do anything crazy. You're a normal person working a normal job. You know what I mean? Putting your opinion, and people treat you like that. So that's how bad it is in 2026. That's how bad and crazy these people are.
I agree. I think cancel culture is bad, but we need to hold federal officials, federal officers accountable. And the reason why is because there's a power imbalance. Because, like Ken said, the power imbalance is that they have the biggest military, the biggest government in their backing, and then also the president saying they're going to give them immunity. That's not good either. So yeah, I condemn crime. Crime is crime. There are crazies on both ends of the spectrum. You get people, but all of this is really more dividing us. But we need to keep our eye on the ball, because we can't give too much power to the government, because what they do to us will do unto you. It's whoever's in power, whether it be the silly liberals or the silly conservatives. They always use it to their benefit. So that's why we hold our principles. Like I said, our principles matter most when you have to hold them and apply them to people that you disagree with.
Yeah, and to that point, I'm going to talk about